Hmm. When I was thinking about loop of awareness, I've been thinking a lot about loop of awareness lately because I think it makes so many differences for people. And one of the things that occurred to me yesterday is that loop of awareness, excuse me, loop of awareness is a great way to clear your mind. So, and I'll say more about that in a minute, because what I'd like you to do is give attention to your sensory experience. So, either body sensations or your breathing, or what you're hearing right now. So, when you're doing loop of awareness, you're not thinking, you're sensing. So, you're giving your attention rather than being up in your mind, you're giving your attention to your sensory experience, and then that refreshes. It's one of the things it does is refresh your mind. And it's a great thing to do, like you're in the middle of some project and you've gone, oh, I don't know what to do next, or I've run into some kind of an impasse. Loop of awareness, even if there's not another person there, so you can give your attention to your senses. So go ahead and do that and let yourself just richly savor your senses, or one of them. So I often will go to body sensation, because I'm more kinesthetic, but you may go more toward, ooh, what am I hearing around me? And also, when you're giving your attention to yourself, you might be sensing that you're seeing inside of you. So, and then I'd like you to give your attention to something that you're working on right now, like a project, or something that you're reading, or something that you're engaged with. And so I'd like you to give your attention to that. So it's kind of outside yourself, but also inside yourself. So giving your attention to that, and then bringing your attention back to your insides and sensing what's going on for you, and letting that shift several times. Now, I'm noticing as you're doing that, so some of you then hold your breath while you're doing that. So, one of the things I suggest for people who are also just learning this is giving your attention to your breath. Whenever I give my attention to my breath, or I invite you to give attention to your breath will change. So when I say notice your breathing, almost everybody will do something to their breathing. They'll, adjust it in some way, because most of the time we're not giving attention to our breathing and it's just functioning. Thank goodness it's going and we don't need to, monitor, okay, now in, now out. But when we do attend to our breathing, the power of attention is it shines presence on whatever you're giving your attention to. And part of that is because you're using your whole body. You're not just coming at it cognitively. But we've learned so much, especially in the last few years, to exist from here up. And so making moves to include more of your body is one of the, I think, the most valuable things that we can do for our own health, but also for our well-being and our connection with others. And the other thing that's been occurring to me with loop of awareness is that you create a context of presence. So if you are letting your attention shift, so like right now we're in a new meeting and some people you may recognize here and some people you don't. But if you're giving attention to you and your senses, and then you give your attention to somebody in the group, and then you come back to you, what you're actually doing is creating a context, a container of presence. And I find that my loop of awareness, especially if I bring curiosity into it, the so adding to noticing your own senses. And so for me, whenever I'm it opens up movement for me. I don't know what the does for you. So try it out when you're giving attention to you, add a to that, because it will open curiosity. And then let yourself give attention to somebody in the group with a and notice how it shifts and opens your awareness. And I invite you to do that several times, finding your own pace for that. And I always like to, my loop of awareness is pretty continuous now, but when I'm kind of gearing it up, I'm kind of starting it up. I like to do it slowly and with savoring. So I'm not just going, ka-dun, 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 ka-dun. Yeah, I got you, got me, got me. So that's in the pace that most people do their lives right now, which is, and I notice that I've gotten into that pace when I start knocking things, like knocking things over or reaching for something and I just miss it. I'll go, oh, I'm not in the timing of presence. And so I also find that loop of awareness assists me to open up to a pace that allows me to actually presence what's going on rather than zipping past it. So I invite you to go, and then when you're ready to out, and you could include the whole group or you could include one person with that when I do a it tends to make my attention more rounded. I don't know, instead of pokey. A lot of our attention when we give to people is like meh, like what's wrong, or you're in my way, or I was first, or uh rather than the when I add a I can feel that my attention gets softer. And so I want you to experiment with what's the pace that allows you to feel that savoring. And for me, it's also a settling. When I let myself do, usually you have to do at least 8 of the loops before I can kind of feel it kind of gearing up. And then I get to ride on it and enjoy, and I can add other dimensions to it. So just like when we're practicing breathing and we ask people to breathe, or on a show, they'll, somebody will be panicked and somebody else will say, just breathe. And they do 1 or 2 breaths and they go, okay, now we can continue being in adrenaline. So it's like, no, 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 no. If you're going to tell people to breathe, please let them actually enjoy it by, of course, that would take up the whole scene. And so but I think they've been adding in a little bit of somatic because they can see how valuable it is for people to breathe, but they haven't got the breathing direction. So for you, the breathing and the sensations, for me, each time I do this, I kind of add more to my sensory map. It becomes more available to me. And there's a lot of research now about how doing loop of awareness increases your effectiveness. And so for me, the thing that was most coming to me to this today was the clearing of my thoughts, because I can get all clogged up with them, especially if I'm listening to what's going on in the world, and might get caught up in some adrenaline or river, and I can come back to, all right, I can source presence, and that actually makes me think better. And I want to invite you as an experiment this week, when you're coming into a new situation, like you're going to a meeting or you're going into some new place, I'd like you to start up your loop of awareness before you go in the door. So like you're coming toward it and you give attention to yourself of, and how am I, how's my pace? And so as you're looking at, because I like to look at the, what's the space look like, and let my attention kind of fill the space, and then coming back to me. And then what I imagine you're going to experience is easy connection, and people welcoming your presence, so that you're an invitation to connect by your presence. And it's kind of magical, but it's also incredibly powerful. It really works. And so I want you to take what you're learning in here, what you're experiencing in here, and share it in some way, because that will allow you to deepen it even more. And then I like to add in when I'm checking for me, like when I'm checking my senses, what will often pop up is some part of my body that goes, me. Okay, I'd like a little bit more. And then that's where I'll bring in a love scoop. So gathering up, because we're attention, when you've been looping, you've been filling the space with presence. And then you can give that to any place in you. Like I have it's a little gritchy place right here. So I'm gonna, hmm. So the intention often is to fix it or get rid of it. Like, okay, I'm okay now, get, fix yourself so I can go on and pay attention to something else because you're basically my vehicle for moving me around. But if I'm just giving attention there, what I noticed is immediately my shoulders dropped, and I just had much more of a sense of, oh, there's no hurry. Because often for me in the morning, there's a bunch of stuff to do, and the cats, and gays going out the door, and so if you have that, like you're starting into your day, imagine starting with some love scoops to any place that just wants a little bit more attention. One of the things that I've learned from my cats is first thing in the morning, we have to have head pets. So they will line up and we have to have head pets. And then we move in to the other room and we have crunchies. And then we move into the kitchen and we have our cream and our tuna. And each time there's like more, they get more fluffed up and more fluffed up. And so giving them attention, I go, how come I'm not doing that with me? Like where's my tuna? Where's my head pet? So I want you to use your love scoops as your own, literally you can go, oh, just yeah. And you can add, oh yeah, because I mean, how many of us really ever touch our heads except to try and improve them? Like your hair's out of place or yeah. So love scoops to, like I was just thinking, love scoops to my armpit. Now, how often do I actually give attention to my armpit other than, like putting stuff on it and cleaning it, make sure it's not stinky, but my armpits, it's where my wings come out. It's what supports me, really letting my arms express. And so when you're doing your love scoops, adding in your love scoops, let yourself, and sometimes we don't, like I want a little bit more, so I made, we do like a scrawny little love scoop, but you could do a whole love bucket, and really just scoop it over you and let yourself like taking an energy shower, so that you're not doing your love scoops kind of perfunctory, like yeah, I'm doing my love scoops and yeah, but you actually are letting yourself experience. And now let yourself see if you can do a love scoop energetically. Because sometimes when you're out in public, I mean, I will, but not everybody will, just do scoops, out in public. But how about an energetic, like shoveling up some love and then letting it, roll down your back, or letting yourself play with it with your feet, like creating a little love pool. So the I've found that the more I let myself play with loop of awareness and with love scoops, not only the more fun I have, but the more my body wakes up and the more I feel ready, like ready to be with whatever life is presenting. So take a moment and just notice how this play has impacted your aliveness, your feeling of aliveness, your experience of presence right now, your willingness to engage, your willingness to connect. And you can do little refreshments. I like to do, this is for me, it's a wonderful way to start the week because I'm really filling my reservoir. And then I can add in, like today, if I feel any wobbles, I just do a little bit more of that, of loop of awareness, not even if nobody's around, because I can loop out to the birds. We had we had a flock of doves. Doves, we have a fountain in our front yard. We have a beautiful fountain, and it's become a stopping place for birds. And we had about 100 doves the other day that were jumping into the fountain and then out into the trees. And then so they were getting water. And as I was looping to them and then back to me, the sensory experience of doves. I don't know if you ever heard that many doves, but listening to that many doves is really, yes, it's that. Ah, so the wonder and the creation of the world that's ongoing, you can be part of that and get the nourishment of that, anytime. So I wanted to, I'm going to shift now for those of you who might be new to Loops and Scoops, welcome. And when we finish our 15 minutes or so of Loops and Scoops, then I shift over to sharing a card from our integrity deck. Because especially right now in our lives, my experience is that aligning with reality, aligning with the skills that allow me to be in harmony with life creates more ease and flow. So not only the ability to solve problems and all of that, but basically a sense of ease and flow. I was just thinking of the phrase tiptoeing through a herd of sleeping elephants. So there is a way in which your presence can guide you through even chaos and disturbances so that you are continuing to move in, along with the life force of the universe. So today, how about, Michelle, can you pull up the card, please? And the card for today, da 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 da, which is one I really love. And I'd like you to let yourself look at it. So this is a loop of awareness practice. So you look at the card and then give attention to yourself and noticing how looking at the card and then giving attention to your body, what lights up in your body. And I'm going to share with you the sentence and the question here. The sentence is, my language closely matches my experience. That's a action-packed sentence. My language closely matches my experience. And then the question is, how can I communicate in a way that closely matches my actual experience? How can I communicate in a way that closely matches my actual experience? So as you try both of those on, there are a couple of things that I wanted to say about that. One, the images are designed to really wake up your own sensory inside so that you can, metaphors are a great way to bridge between the outside world and your inner world. And that's one of the reasons that we do the collages. And I want to appreciate Kirsten Jones, who co-created this deck with me. It took about a year to put all of the images together in the collages. And I think she just did a masterful job. Now, let's come off of that. So I want, because there are a couple of things in both of these that I wanted to share with you. In recent years, you'll find, like, I don't believe in any of our deck cards, we use the word truth. And I am not using it anymore for reasons that if you just look at what's going on right now, how the word truth has been corrupted, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so we made these cards several years ago, and I'm really glad that we did. And what I've found is that instead of truth, I'm matching and accurately describing is what I find aligns me with that kind of ease and flow through the universe. It also opens up, if there's something going on and I can describe it, if I can describe as closely as I can, it actually opens up. discovery, connection between something that happened and how I feel about it. It opens up my ability to not just solve problems, but to experience being at source with my communication. And I'm also communicating from my body. I'm not communicating from my head. So here where it says my language closely matches my experience. And if I practice that, it allows me to do what we call speaking from discovery, that I'm speaking something that is arising. I'm not summarizing something that's already happened, because then I'm in my head and I'm making opinions about it and I'm analyzing it. But when I'm speaking from my experience, that really opens up discovery. And I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to play with this so that you can discover how that actually works. And I've had so many experiences of, being like, oh, something's going on, I don't quite know what it is. And I start describing my experience and they go, oh, there's that, oh, something, the aha opens up. So that I find quite magical. And then how can I communicate in a way that closely matches my actual experience? And I notice we put actual in there because what often happens is that we go from experience to story. And one of the big skills for humans is to discern the difference between what you're experiencing and your story about what you're experiencing. I stubbed my toe and it was because you left things on the floor and I'm mad at you, rather than I was going too fast and I didn't, I just overshot. And so the story that I make up is almost always a one of not taking responsibility. So the story is almost always on the triangle of somebody else is the villain. I'm the victim here, obviously. So somebody else is either the villain or I'm waiting for them to help me. But when I actually claim my experience, I enter into becoming at source with my experience, where I'm actually genuinely taking responsibility, which is I am able to respond. And so there's a connection for me, and I think you'll find for you also, between opening up to sharing my actual experience. I find that that's so much more powerful. Like if I have an experience, I'm looking for Gay to share it with him, because when I share it, the resonance of letting it move through my body and then sharing it with another person amplifies my discovery. And it often doesn't need, like if there's something going on between you and a close partner, and each of you share what you are experiencing, you'll notice that the problem tends to dissolve. It's not a problem anymore. It's something that happened and I had this experience and you had this experience. And then, oh, and that reminded me of it. Oh, and then I discover, and then you become discovery partners, rather than whose fault is it this time. So I find it incredibly valuable, and also simple. If I still feel a kerfuffle, there's probably something else to discover. There's something else that I can match. Like, oh, yeah, I did feel jealous there, and I can still feel that in my belly, and it feels like me. And as I start describing that, then it begins to dissolve. And then what's under that, like, oh, I just really wanted more of your attention. And I realized that I didn't ask for that. So the resolution can happen very easily, and you move out of blame, which then fosters a deeper intimacy, a deeper vulnerability, a deeper willingness to share what's going on. So this card is really a biggie. And if you wanted to, this would be a great one to sort of keep at hand, maybe on the refrigerator or on your mirror in the bathroom, for several days this week, because it's foundational, your ability to speak from discovery. And as much as I practice it, I keep finding, more richness in it. So that's it for today. And Thank you so much for being here. Beginning of spring, things are popping. And so all of the things that you're putting seeds in the ground, letting your loop of awareness and your love scoops really support their flourishing also. Okay, so until next time, thanks so much for being here, and please discuss amongst yourselves. Bye now.